And I can understand to a degree a lot of the fear that's there because not knowing and being afraid to talk to anyone around you about what you think on certain things, you can
Mhm.
feel very alone.
Yeah, so that's exactly why this diversity, equity, and inclusion is just a lie. Where is diversity of thought? Where are the conservative thought on campus? You do not want to hear from that, right? No. So, and you're not the first person to share these feelings, and I heard it also from students that do not feel that they can talk about their political views because they are on the conservative side of spectrum. Where is inclusion? Right, we are inclusive to everyone, but long list of people who are not welcome at
Mhm.
So that's yeah. So
I
that's
think when I think of inclusion as it's done in the sort of DEI thing, it comes to mind to me as it's inclusion if you agree.
right. Yeah. Well, you know what is my kind of definition, operational definition of what DEI means?
Go for it.
So I call it, and I can support it by evidence: discrimination, entitlement, and intimidation. So
Okay.
that's what they do operationally. And
Okay. I'm curious why that name for the acronym.
well, discrimination because diversity is achieved by discriminatory policies like quotas for faculty hiring using immutable characteristics of people in various stages in funding, in hiring to discriminate against people who do not fit, do not fall into preferred categories. Entitlement because the idea of equity is antithetical to the idea of equality of opportunity, and equity demands equal outcomes. And I recently heard Kamala Harris quoted, who explains that equity means that we all end up in the same place. So, which is, of course, uh, completely antithetical to humanistic merit-based
Mm,
based approaches, because everyone should end up based on his or her talent, skills, and actions and achievements, and not by so. And intimidation, well, intimidation because inclusivity, is administered in a very heavy-handed, and only those who agree are included. And if you do not agree, you will be very explicitly chased out, excluded, and intimidated.
okay, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. I can tell Kieran in the chat just loves that phrase. I may use that myself. And I feel like, yeah, it's just I kind of agree with the discriminatory part straight out of the gate because in particular because how do I put this? What I've noticed is that whenever there's a discussion of diversity, it automatically defaults to things that, for lack of a better way or to describe it, only skin deep. The assumption being inherent in there that you're a different race from me, therefore you think differently, which is not necessarily true. And actually, I've been meaning to ask Lee this question, is because I think if I recall correctly, in the literature in psychology and sociology, that's been demonstrated to not be true because the intra-group variability in perspectives is actually greater than the variability between groups.
Well, it's racist and sexist because it's exactly this argument that was used to keep women out of science, because they were saying women cannot think like men. They are not rational, they are not quantitative, they cannot teach men, there is no place for women in science. And people like me and early generations, we fought against that. We were saying that women can do science, and there is no such, being a woman does not make you less competent or less qualified than a male scientist. And that's what these diversity policies now directly oppose. They say, yeah, we need people of different races, people of different genders, even sexual orientation now. They somehow can think differently. So that's manifestly wrong and discriminatory.
Mm. And that's what I've said before privately to others, and admittedly, I will say seeing you do what you've been doing, and getting out there, I
Mm.
have been much more vocal in my own workplace to say that some of this that
Mhm.
a lot of this stuff is wrong and to express my opinion on it, which I'm sure has been interesting for some of my coworkers, but I have been,
Yeah.
much more vocal about it than I was, so thank you. I've been
Mhm.
meaning to say that. Thank you for being an inspiration on that front, 'cause, I do think it's just like we can't just have one person speaking out in the speaking out in the desert about all of these particular problems because it's not gonna get fixed with just one person.
Yeah, we need more people to speak up, actually. That's very important thing because I am absolutely confident that most people in the scientific community are generally in agreement with the ideas that you and I discuss and share with the liberal values, with merit-based policies, with enlightenment. So I have no doubt about it. But many people are afraid to speak up, and the reason they give, okay, there is a fear of personal ostracism, and it's not to be taken lightly. I actually have a lot of empathy and I understand. I do not judge people that choose to retreat and not speak up because it's just very, very painful. And so then many people think, mistakenly, I think, they say it's a pendulum. It's like horrible, it's bad, it's wrong, but we do not need to do anything. It will come back. It will swing the other way. Now, that's manifestly wrong. It's not a pendulum, it's a ratchet. It's if you do not push back, it will only be tightened and taken even further. And then the third group of people, and actually not a small group, they explain their silence or their even vocal support of ideas that they do not agree with. They explain it by political expediency. They say, okay, and I actually get it from several people I respect. They say, Anna, I agree with what you say in your paper. And of course, this is all like wrong and nonsense, but you shouldn't be writing it because this paper will facilitate political gains for bad people, for Trump supporters. Things like that. So, so I mean, the idea is ridiculous that Trump supporters will run with a peril in politicizing of
Well, and
sides.
that
But
that has been the demonization of folks like yourself and others that I've seen online, that, you're just going for a right-wing grift. You're just doing this for the Trump supporters, and just like, "No,
right,
I'm
which
doing
is
this because
yeah,
you're worried about science."
yeah, but that's very common, and some people actually do believe that, and they say, yeah, we should not criticize these things because they would result in political loss for the party we believe is on the right side of things, and that's more important. So we are back to this uh, goal justify the means, right? Aim justifies the means mentality. And to that, I say that we've seen this example of thinking in many instances, and where people would suppress the truth in the name of greater good, with the goal to defend their institutions. You can think about many cases of horrible sexual harassment
Mm.
in churches, in universities, in athletic teams, where I'm sure none of the leadership would support this atrocious behaviors, but the leaders were suppressing and keeping them quiet and not punishing the perpetrators because it would harm the institution. And protecting the institution is more important than truth. And I manifestly disagree with that. I think truth is more important than political games and partisanships and
Mm.
institutions. So we should never compromise the truth with the goal to win election or protect our university or athletic team.
Did you like that video? Are you curious about the rest of the video? because that clip came from an episode of SciChat Saturday, and the full episode is linked in the description. As always, stay curious.